Hello everybody, this is Jennifer Batten from Michael Jackson and Jeff Beck's bands. I'm here at Bax Music to tell you about some fun stuff, and especially the Fishman TriplePlay wireless MIDI system. I first really dug into the synthesizer world when I joined Jeff Beck's band and I found out I was the keyboard player. So he was perfectly happy to have me play guitar for the whole show, but having had a career of 30 or 40 years with synthesizer sounds behind him, I knew the guitar wouldn't cut it. So I dug into synth world and ended up playing a system, well, it was 17 years ago. It was kind of caveman days for synth. And there was such a delay between when you hit the note and when you heard it that soloing was just out of the question. So 99% of what I did was pads, and that was okay. You hit strings and they kind of swell in, and other sounds were just okay, but I certainly didn't want to solo with it. And he wanted me to do a couple parts, like I think it's the song Savoy, where there's a little horn section. So I had to play so on top of the beat to actually have the sound appear when it should, and it's really uncomfortable to do that. Well, now, all these years later, the Fishman synthesizer comes along. It's wireless, so you can dance in circles, which is pretty important, and it's speedy as hell. So you can actually play it like a guitar and have it respond to every little nuance that your hands do, including the tremolo bar. You could never do that before. Bends. So all of a sudden it's fun, and you have access to a ridiculous amount of sounds. Don't think you're just gonna load up your computer and go to the gig, because it's gonna take a couple hours to download 7 gigs worth of really high quality sounds. You get 140 presets that come with it that are super dialed in with great effects and ready to bend. And then you basically have access to almost any synth that's out there. This is just a triggering device. This here is the controller. It's got a few functions on it. It's got volume here, and this is where I will change sounds up or down. You pair it, this talks to a USB dongle, and you just push a button on the dongle, push a button on the controller, and boom, they're paired and they talk to each other and you're ready to go. Most people take a computer where they go anyway. I know I take 2 or 3 when I go on the road. MacBook Airs weigh nothing. You can also use an iPad and use the USB connector to put the USB dongle into, and have your sounds anywhere in the world, and you have, you know, 1 billion times more sounds than I ever had with a rack full of gear. I had Roland 1080s, sound modules, 2 rack spaces. I had 3 of those, then a MIDI converter, and a 13-pin cable that went into the MIDI converter and then could access the sounds. I had a MIDI controller to change presets, and 1 volume for 1 module, another volume for another, and taking that thing around the world. Luckily, I didn't have to haul it around. But after Jeff Beck, I just gave up on synth, because carrying that much gear around for most gigs was just not going to happen. It's not something you can throw in your suitcase. So when this came along, I thought, wow, technology is finally here all these years later, and it reacts. It's so fast. And so I'll just play a few sounds. Really lush. It's a pretty powerful feeling to have that kind of sound at your fingertips, when it used to be exclusively keyboard players. And now you don't have to call anybody up when you get inspired and want to write a song. In fact, you can do splits on the guitar. I use one later on that I have cello on the bottom 2 strings and a full orchestra on the top. You can actually split this into 4 different sections, where For instance, you could have drums on the top 3 strings up to the 7th fret, bass on the bottom 3, and 2 different synthesizer sounds at the same time. Or you can blend, and they really dumb it down for guitar players. Instead of being geeks, I know a lot of guitar players are technophobes, so instead of getting in there and going, let's see, I want this string to do this and that string to do this, they dumb it down so you see the fretboard and you see colors. And if you want the blue color and the purple color to be blended together, you just drag purple against blue, or only across the sounds or the strings that you want. So we all like it dumbed down. Nobody likes to read a manual. But they do have a great support system online as well. They have videos for anything that you want to know about it. And I haven't even seen them all, and I've been playing this for, 3 years? Because I haven't had to dig into a manual. All right, let's see, a few more sounds. Some great solo sounds in here. And they're really dynamic. If you dig down with your pick or go really soft, it really reacts with you, so you can get very expressive with it. One thing that's always been a challenge for guitar synth players is playing bass sound, because back in the day it was such a delay between playing a note and hearing a note. You play a note and a week later, that's when the sound comes out, and it makes it really hard to groove that way. Well, with the Fishman synth, it's a whole different world now. Never do that before with a bass sound that low. So Jocko's one of my favorite people in the world. I even named my dog Jocko, so to be able to play his stuff on a guitar is kind of a special moment. There's an optional foot controller that you can get called the FC1 that allows you to change patches with your feet instead of your hand, which is kind of handy because your hands are usually busy. And it also has a hold pedal in it. And if you have, for instance, a keyboard that you love the sounds of, or a keyboard module from back in the day that you really want to be able to trigger, it's got MIDI in and out. So you just take the USB dongle, put it in the foot controller, and you're good to go. All right, one advantage of playing certain instruments like reed instruments with a guitar is there's no spit. There, you can change octaves, you can change pitch if you want to. So I started out with a harmonica to get the Stevie Wonder thing. And for the soloing and the blues, I just hit the button and I had another preset set up that was an octave lower. And check out it, the samples are so rich you can almost feel the spit. You can hear the reeds vibrating.